Okay, now we are ready to go. All right, so we got some pretty crazy news coming out of Niger, Africa. Per usual, the saga continues, and we're going to keep covering this story. Now, as we know, at the beginning of this entire junta reign, this entire coup, nobody knew exactly what Niger, Africa was really going to do. You had Russia say we're going to come and help you guys out. You had the United States staying out of it. You have the French saying absolutely not. But right now we have the country of Mali. You have the country of Burkina Faso, who have now all come to an agreement that whatever happens, whether we are fighting against other African nations, whether we're fighting against militant groups, we are going to stand together and we are going to fight everyone off together in a legal, legitimate pact. Now, this is pretty crazy because, again, we had no idea what was going to happen, and we didn't know that these countries were actually going to be working together. Like, we sort of knew, but now they're actually going to do this. So let's go ahead and look into the story and see exactly what is happening. Okay, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso signed Sahel Security Pact. Now, again, if you're new to the party, Sahel is the region that all of these countries live in. It's known as the Sahel African region. Very dangerous area, probably one of the most dangerous areas in the world when it comes to insecurity. A lot of bad guys are in this group. Again, it is not good. So let's go ahead and see exactly what is happening and how these countries are going to be operating, or I guess really working together. Okay. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, three West African Sahel nations ruled by military juntas, signed a security pact on Saturday promising to come to aid of each other in case any rebellion or external aggression happens. So, okay, that's a very big deal because now we have legal and legitimate means for them to all come together, which is not good for the French, which is also kind of odd for the United States being in the middle of all of this. The three countries are struggling to contain Islamic bad guys linked to other bad groups, the names you can't say in here, and have also seen relations with neighbors and international partners strained because of the coups, which is also really bad. The latest coup in Niger drove a further wedge between the three countries of the regional bloc. The Economic Community of West African States has threatened to use force to restore constitutional rule in the country. Wild. Mali and Burkina Faso have also vowed to come to Niger's aid if attacked. Now, they were saying this towards the beginning of the conflict, but now this is like legit. They're all going to come together and fight. Any attack on the sovereignty and territorial integrity of one or more contracted parties will be considered an aggression against other parties. So if Burkina Faso is attacked, Niger will come and help. If Mali's attacked, Niger will help. If Niger is attacked, you know what I'm saying, vice versa. So whether it's one or everyone, they all help each other out, according to the charter to the pact known as the Alliance of the Sahel States. It said the other states will assist individually or collectively, including the use of armed force. Okay. I have signed today with the heads of the state of Burkina Faso and Niger the Liptako Gourma Charter establishing the Alliance of the Sahel States, with the aim of establishing a collective defense and mutual assistance framework, Mali junta leader Assimi Goïta said on his X social media account. That's right, these guys are using Twitter. You can get a lot of news on Twitter, which is pretty funny. All three states were members of the France-supported G5 Sahel Alliance joint force with Chad. And so, as we all know, all of these countries are no longer friends with the French. They've all kicked out the French or trying to kick out the French. So it makes sense that all of these countries will now be working together. Now, here's what's also interesting and why things are sort of leading down a dark path. Burkina Faso, the junta ordered the French embassy's defense attaché to leave. Now, when I was looking up what exactly this meant, like I didn't know what position this was because the French have a lot of odd positions that a lot of other countries don't. This position is essentially the third in charge when it comes to the ambassadorship to other countries. So this is actually a pretty high-ranking official to the country of Burkina Faso. And Burkina Faso is essentially saying, hey, you need to leave our country. Now, we can only stipulate the reason why Burkina Faso is kicking out all French entities is because of this right here. At the time of this live stream, only about 2 weeks ago, this is what happened.
Burkina Faso's interim president held talks with a Russian delegation on Thursday, including discussions on military cooperation. The visit, amid Western concerns over the Kremlin's expanding influence in the region, saw Ibrahim Traoré sit down with Russia's Deputy Defense Minister Yunusbek Yevkurov.
So what you're seeing here is the exact same path that Mali did. So it's almost like Mali's taken charge on what could happen. Then you have Burkina Faso, then you have Niger following suit. But again, what you have here is that Russia shows massive interest in Burkina Faso. Now, Burkina Faso has denied for about a year now that they are not working with the Russians, they're not working with mercenary groups. But we have other evidence here that proves otherwise.
Military cooperation, technical military cooperation, but also cooperation in the field of the economy, in the field of nuclear energy, are all questions. We will do our best to help you develop in all these spheres.
And don't worry, we'll look into exactly how Russia is helping Mali, because I'm telling you right now, it's not the greatest. And by the way, if you're watching this live, it helps out a ton if you guys like the live stream, apparently. I didn't know that. I'm usually not that kind of guy. But if you guys like the live stream, it actually helps out a ton.
I have already reminded your president of this. In the field of military cooperation, we will discuss the training format of your cadets and officers of different levels, including pilots in our country.
Okay, now this is the exact same thing that the Russians were telling Mali, that, you know, we're going to work with you, we're going to give you more technology, we're going to help you guys out. And now, obviously, Niger seeing this, well, this sounds like a good deal, especially if we're going to be kicking the French out, and the United States are sort of doing whatever they want. The United States, again, smack dab in the middle of all of this. The issue is this. I'll give you guys a little cliffhanger here. First and foremost, Burkina Faso has a massive issue. All of these red marks are epicenters of where attacks happen. However, when you go to Mali, when you look at Mali, you see direct correlations from the time that they started working with Russian mercenary groups and really siding with Russia. And the thing is this, all of these attacks are either Russian mercenary groups themselves or other militant/bad guys who have decided to cross borders between Niger and Mali. Because the issue is this, just like Mali, Burkina Faso themselves don't really have a lot of security going on in their country. They've kicked out the French. The UN is really not working in there. The United States is not working here. So they need someone to back them up. They need someone to help them. So again, the point of this video is really to talk about that Niger and Mali will all be working together along with Burkina Faso. And the main point of their agreement is that they're going to all work together to try securing their own countries. But again, the counterpoint is these guys can't even secure their own countries. You'll notice in the center of Burkina Faso, where most of the security is happening, the epicenters are not there. A lot of these attacks are happening on these borders, especially near Niger, especially near Benin, and especially near Mali, where you have a lot of gold mines out here, and Mali is hardly being secured. So again, now you have all of these countries coming together to allegedly work together. But in all honesty, what this really is that these countries are coming together, yes, to help one another to fight the bad guys who are taking over their countries, but they're really coming together to have on paper that if one country gets attacked, Burkina Faso, if Mali gets attacked, if Niger gets attacked, from neighboring ECOWAS countries, we are willing to fight for one another. Now again, just from the video I showed you, I really do think it's because all of these countries were former French colonies, and the fact that they're kicking out all of the French and the fact that they're lining up with the Russians, I don't think the Russians are willing to work in these countries unless you kick out the French.
Junta-led Burkina Faso's relations with Moscow have been in the spotlight since it booted out French troops in February. That fueled speculation that it would deepen security ties with Russia like in neighbouring Mali, where Russian Wagner mercenaries operate. The visit could also be a further sign that Russia is seeking to shore up its influence in Africa, following the death of Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin.
And at this point, as we know, Russia is willing to side with North Korea. So it's really not out of the question for Russia to seek or to find partners in Africa, because at this point, Russia is on this conquest, especially within Africa, to find regional partners, to work with partners that we never really thought they'd ever work with, especially in Burkina Faso, where the leader of Burkina Faso actually called the Russians friends and brothers. We share the same history along those lines. But again, when you look at Mali, and you look at all these epicenters of attacks where the attacks are getting worse and worse. Not only that, they're getting worse in regions where these attacks have never happened. Direct correlation from the time they started working with Russia. You look at Burkina Faso, the exact same thing. Now, as far as the country of Niger, we can only see what's about to happen because we have an oddball. We have a wild card. The U.S. military is operating in Niger, and I have no idea how Niger is going to work with the Russians if the U.S. military is working there too. Hey, we have a $20 donation. Thank you so much for this donation. And if you are watching live, make sure you're liking this live because it helps out a ton. Why do I think I've been hearing this tune repeated every decade since the 1950s? I'm sure Putin is having fun with this little distraction. Well, that is a very good point. You do have this Africa is falling apart, all blah, blah, blah. Well, there's two things here, and I want to give you a good answer because you did leave a nice, hefty donation. Number one, Africa has always been insecure ever since colonial times because you have countries like the French who go into these countries and don't really care about the well-being of the people. They care about the natural resources. But then all of a sudden, as the French leave about the 60s, along with all these countries, when they get their independence, they're light years behind everyone else in the world as far as development with technology, economy, stuff like that. Not knocking on Africa, but this is the truth of everything. Now we're in another weird situation where Russia finds himself backed in a corner where all of Europe doesn't like them. The rest of the world is putting them on sanctions, but they've come to realize, along with China, that, hey, how about we just dabble our hands and fingers into Africa? And you have to understand, Russia was never really a part of this whole colonial era into Africa. So now you have these broken countries where Russia is starting to find out, you know what, we actually can work with these countries, especially if nobody likes us, especially if we have sanctions on us. Let's all partner together. So again, to mainly answer your question, I think this time around things are dead serious because also China has built a launch pad in Africa. China is building roads. They're building universities. Russia is seeing this is working for China. And look, Russia's not there to change the influence of a country. Russia is there to help secure a country in exchange for, maybe some natural resources, etc. But again, in the case of Niger, I don't know how Russia is going to be able to mess with the U.S. military other than making sure Burkina Faso and Mali fall apart. If Mali and Burkina Faso maintain all these epicenters and these countries continue to fall apart, just like this chart shows, it's just going to bleed into Niger, and that's where the U.S. military is either going to make them look bad, or the U.S. military is going to have to up the ante and to keep the pressure up. Because if the U.S. military doesn't keep it up, they're going to get kicked out just like the French did, because this is why the French are getting kicked out. They're getting accused of not actually doing their job and taking advantage of the area, using the areas in Niger when the people don't want them there. So I hope that answered your question. Anyway, yeah, that's what's going on right now in the whole Niger conflict. The lines are drawn. Now the move is up to the ECOWAS members and up to the French on whether or not they want to invade and attack. And again, we've been pretty accurate on this channel on what we think is going to happen, and I fully think we're about to have an all-out African conflict. I wish it doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't happen. But France put themselves in the position of, we're going to do it. We have to do it. You're holding us hostage. We don't have any other choice. So France is going to get what they asked for, and I think they're going to look terrible. I think these other African nations are going to look terrible. And the U.S. military is going to be smack dab in the middle of it, per usual. But I think they're doing their best to stay out of it. They're in the middle of it, but they're not getting involved with it. So anyway, if you guys are watching this live, you already know, make sure you I'm about to post this live stream. Make sure you comment, like the video. It helps out a ton. You guys liking the live stream, for whatever reason, YouTube is so annoying. If you like the live stream, it does good. So again, I'm going to post this video. Go send your comments on the posted video, send your likes, and it helps me out a ton. And I also get to read what you guys have to say, because it's really hard for me to see on the side here. They give me like a size 2 font. I can't see any of your comments half the time. So thank you again for everything. Thank you for being here. Please go comment on the posted video, and I hope you guys learned something.